Good day, everybody. Again, my name is Eric Laylon, and thank you for jumping into this video on my newsletter. This is the first time that you've ever joined. This is a digital marketing discussion and newsletter. We talk all things advertising online and in these different environments of mobile and desktop and streaming and audio and digital out of home. I've had about over 20 years. This year I'll be over 20 years in digital advertising experience. Started in Google advertising back in 2005 and 2006, and now do all things online, do all things digital advertising, and helping clients to really manage their brand, get better brand exposure, drive more visits, drive more traffic to their websites, and get more revenue out of the advertising message. So if you've been in this channel before, you've seen that I've used media posts. I'm going to be using it again. They just released some really interesting information around YouTube. So this topic, if you've read the newsletter, obviously you're going to see more on how YouTube has made an impact as we looked at advertising and how it's bought within the last calendar year of 2025. So as you can see from the title, YouTube has surpassed the other major streaming advertising platforms that are out there. So it beat out Disney, Paramount, NBC, and Warner Brothers combined. So what does that mean? So it means that last year, over 51% of the advertising that was bought was done on the sole platform of YouTube. So this is somewhere that a lot of people are spending a lot of time, and it's where a lot of advertisers are engaged. So as a business, it's important to be here, right? So not only from a component of making sure that your channel is there, but also that you're advertising in this. So YouTube, if you're familiar with it, obviously is owned by Google. So there's an algorithm that's at play, right? So just like the Google search engine, the YouTube environment is a search engine, and it reacts off of a algorithm. And so that algorithm is going to be there. So it is going to show your channel. If you're putting out the videos and you're doing the SEO and the tagging and the descriptions the right way, your videos will get found. But they're not always going to be found by all the people all the time, right? Advertising is really important to make sure that your message is reaching that audience, that you're getting to the point that you're saying your message to the right people at the right time. I was just on a call and we were talking about push and pull advertising, right? So in this environment, you need to be able to be pushing your message to an audience so that they know who you are, and that you're also pulling them in. If they're doing searches, that they're finding your channels and they're engaged on you. And that's really important, that you have both push and pull advertising and thought components into how you're building your brand. And YouTube is no different, right? So overarching all of your advertising, you want to think about that push-pull mantra, but also just within the channel of YouTube, you really have to understand how that push and pull conversation is happening. So when you look at it, again, why are people spending so much advertising dollars in YouTube? It's because this is where they're at, right? We know that people are engaged. There's consumption in this environment. People are shifting their buying behaviors to this environment. YouTube has always been, I even go back to when I started advertising, it was something that was there. It was something that people were engaged with. It's only grown over the years, right? More and more people are involved in this. And we really want to make sure that your brand is exposed in this area so that you have the ability to speak and have brand awareness and make sure that your message reaches those that are in these environments. And one of the things that I found really interesting as I was going through this is that there was a new study that was released, and this poll was showing that the Gen Z audiences are becoming more and more dissatisfied with TikTok and some of these other things, and so they're now shifting their behaviors. And YouTube is always shown to have a favorability score with that younger audience. So what does that mean? That means as you look at your targeting, as you look at your messaging, as you look at where you're spending advertising dollars, you want to make sure that you have a portion of that that's reaching the audiences where they're at. And if YouTube has shown such a high favorability score, you want to make sure that your advertising is landing there. So we know that the Gen Z, that user pool is not really engaged on Facebook or Instagram. And so where we want to make sure that your message is reading is where your audience is at. Now, your audience, and I work with a lot of home service type of companies and older demographics. And so, this is something that you have to have a good media mix. Again, going back to that conversation about the push and pull, when you're pushing your message, you want to have that understanding about who your audience is. And if you've listened to this channel long enough, we really talk more about what are you saying, right? So as I've talked about the book, The Death of Demographics, really the targeting of the audience is important, but what you're saying is more important in your marketing, because that's what's going to land, right? You don't want to get so segmented down, meaning you don't want to get so finite in who you're trying to target that you are only going after a very select few because you think that that's who your audience is, right? What you really want to do is what you're saying in this environment, what you're projecting your brand as, what are your values as a brand is really going to be important. And that's why video advertising is so important. When you look at, again, the beauty behind advertising in this environment is that you get to tell a story. Advertising is that telling of a story, a telling of the message, a telling of who you are, what you do, and why, and bringing them, again, to your website, to your profiles, and making them sure that this is who I want to use or buy. And that's, again, what's so beautiful about video advertising. And so whether it's connected TV or, online video, these environments allow for your message to resonate, and now you can tell a story. So what do I help with? I help with a lot of ways within the YouTube environment to help grow. First and foremost, you want to make sure that your channel is there, right? So I work with some newer businesses that are just getting launched. And so, creating that channel, getting it set up, making sure that it's successful is definitely a core piece to that. So, but once we have that base level, we want to start, again, making sure that we build this out so that it's being found by the algorithms. Again, whatever we can do organically, we're going to try to do. And then ultimately, again, making sure that you have that push mechanism of making your ads land in these environments, targeting people that are in the area that you want to service geographically, but also targeting people based off of their audience, setup. So there's a lot of ways to be able to target individuals through these environments that we want to make sure that the message is resonating in front of the right person at the right time. One of the things that I wanted to touch on is YouTube TV advertising. So this is different than your straight YouTube advertising that happens within the organic parts and the YouTube channels, right? So YouTube TV is that streaming component of connected TV. So this is something also that I've done for clients, and again, a really important piece to this conversation, as we talked about within the ad spend that we've seen. It's eclipsed a lot of the other places like Hulu and Paramount and NBC. So these are an important place that advertising needs to land, and I help clients with getting in those environments. So as you look at this strategy, as you look at what's going on within the industry, more and more advertising is being bought here. More and more people are engaged in this, and it's now to that point where it's eclipsed a lot of the other major publishers that are out there. So you need to make sure that you have a strategy of not only just being there, right, but also how do we target it? How do we make sure that your message is resonating, and how can we get the most out of it? So if you have questions about YouTube advertising, if you have questions about, just how to make your brand resonate in front of the people that you want to reach out to, feel free to reach out and we can set up a time to discuss how we can set you up for success for the rest of 2026. Thank you, and God bless.